Hey, welcome back to the channel. I've talked in other videos about things like effort, getting close to failure, how many sets you should do, training frequency, all that stuff. And all that matters, but only if you actually train with intent. Because if you don't have intent behind what you're doing, none of those principles mean anything. You could have the perfect program on paper, the perfect split, perfect volume, but if you just go through the motions, you're wasting your time. I think that's what a lot of people miss. They think as long as they're doing the workout, as long as they're putting in the time, they're doing it right. But it's not about just showing up and checking it off your list. It's about how you show up. It's about how you do the work once you're there. You can spend 30 minutes or an hour, quote unquote, working out, but if you're not actually focused on what you're doing in each set, you're not getting much out of it. And I don't mean that in some abstract mind muscle connection way that sounds like a buzzword. I mean it in a real practical way. Like, do you know what the goal of your next set is before you start it? When I go into a set, I know exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. If I'm doing push ups, I know I'm trying to make my chest, shoulders, and triceps work as hard as possible and not rush to just get the set done. If I'm doing pull ups, I know I'm trying to drive my elbows down and back, feel my lats pull my body up, not just use momentum to fling myself up. And if I'm doing squats, I know I'm trying to control my descent, feel the tension through my quads and glutes, and push up with that intent that I talked about. Every set has a purpose, and you have to know what that purpose is before you even start the set. And that's what separates training from just exercising, in my opinion. Anybody can exercise, anybody can move around for a while, get their heart rate up, break a sweat, and feel tired. But training, real training, is different. It's deliberate, it's focused. You're not just doing movements, you're trying to get something out of those movements. When you start a set, you should already be thinking about the muscles you're about to use. You should know what it's supposed to feel like. You should know what the goal of that set is, not just to survive it, not just to finish it, but to actually get something out of it. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is rushing. They think the faster they get through their sets, the more work they're doing. But that's just not true. Your goal isn't to finish the workout as quickly as possible. Your goal is to make the muscles work for as long as they need to. When you rush a set, you take tension off the muscle. You use momentum, you shorten the range of motion, you simply just move the weight instead of controlling it. And when you do that, you're not training the muscles as well anymore. You're just kind of moving. It doesn't have to be super slow, but it does have to be controlled and not sloppy. There's a difference between moving with purpose and just trying to get through it. For me, when I do push ups, I'm literally thinking about how my chest fibers are lengthening as I lower myself and contracting as I push back up. When I do a pull up, I'm thinking about how my lats stretch at the bottom and squeeze at the top. When I do a split squat, I'm thinking about keeping tension the whole way, not relaxing at the bottom, not bouncing out of it, but controlling it through the entire range. That's what intent looks like in training. It's awareness, it's control, it's being present in the set, not somewhere else in your head. Because if you're thinking about what you're going to do after your workout, or how many sets you have left, or how tired you are, you're not really in it, are you? And if you're not in it, you're not getting much out of it. When you train with intent, every rep matters. You can take a simple movement like a push up or a bodyweight squat and make it incredibly challenging just by focusing on tension and control. You don't need fancy equipment or endless variations. I've said this in the past. You just need to execute the basics correctly. And I think that's what separates people who actually make progress from people who kind of just spin their wheels. Because the people who make progress aren't doing some magical workout. They're just doing ordinary movements with extraordinary focus. It's about quality over quantity. You don't need to do 10 sets of something if you can do 3 sets that actually challenge your muscles the way that they're supposed to. You don't need to add weight every single week if you can make the same weight feel heavier by improving your execution. When you start paying attention to how you're moving, how you're contracting, how you're stretching the muscle under load, you start realizing how much more room there is to grow just by doing the basics better. And this is something I had to learn the hard way because when I was younger, I used to think progress was about doing more sets, more reps, more volume, more intensity, more everything. But eventually you realize that doing more doesn't always mean getting more. Sometimes you need to do less, but do it better. When you slow down and focus on execution, you can get more out of a single set than most people get out of an entire workout, in my opinion, because you're actually training the muscle, not just moving your body. Think about how many people you see doing push-ups where they're bouncing up and down, not hitting full range of motion, just trying to get to a certain number. That's not intent. That's just counting. If your goal is to build strength or muscle or control, then you have to treat every rep like it's the only one that matters. That means controlling your descent. That means feeling the muscle stretch. That means driving back up with focus. You're not rushing through it. You're just totally in it. And that mindset should carry through your entire workout. Every set deserves your full attention. When I'm about to start a set, I take a second to reset, focus, and remind myself what I'm about to do. It doesn't take long, just a second to lock in. But that moment of focus makes a huge difference in how that set feels and what you get out of it. That's why I always say, don't go through the motions because it's easy to go through the motions. It's easy to say, oh, I worked out today, but that doesn't mean you trained. Training with intent is uncomfortable because it forces you to be present. It forces you to think, to feel, to pay attention. It's mentally draining sometimes, not just physically, because you're giving your full focus to the work. But that's exactly why it's so effective. When you train like that, your workouts don't have to be long. They don't have to be complicated because when every rep counts, you don't need a ton of them. You just need to make the ones you do matter. And the more you practice that, the more you learn how to feel the muscle, how to keep tension, how to move with control, the more you'll start to understand your own body. You'll know what good form actually feels like. You'll know when you're actually training the target muscle and when you're just moving weight around. That's the level of awareness that builds real results because once you have that, you can make progress anywhere with anything body weight, bands, dumbbells, it doesn't matter. You can make any movement effective because you know how to train. And look, it's not easy. There are still days where I catch myself rushing or losing focus, and I have to slow down and remind myself what I'm trying to do. It's something you have to keep practicing, but over time, it becomes like second nature. You start to automatically approach each set with that mindset of, all right, what's the goal here? You start to naturally move with more control, more intent, more awareness. And that's where the real progress starts happening. Not because you found a secret exercise or some perfect routine, but because you finally started doing the basics right. So next time you train, don't think about just finishing the workout. Don't think about how many sets you have left. Just think about the one you're in. What's the goal of this set? What muscles am I trying to work? Am I in control or am I just rushing? When you can honestly say you were present for every single rep, that's when you know you're training. Lots of people work out, not everybody trains. Train with intent, and your future self will thank you. So that's it for today. Like always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments, and I will always do my best to help if I can. All right, I'll see you in the next one.